within in the context that you are thinking, you cannot solve the issues that you're addressing, then possibly you need to reconsider the concepts and the context. Maybe the limitation is in your thinking.
And specifically in this instance, with, if I understood correctly, then it would be combining the person of these type of people and then connecting the achievements with the other aspects and making that sort of one big concept. So these type of people who have achieved a lot and don't.
Well, yeah, I would say you're not making a bigger concept. What you're doing is you're using the concepts, but you do not deny the things that are not cannot be explained simply taking the concept as it is. So that's what they say. You keep an open mind, which doesn't mean that you open your mind to all the nonsense that's out there, but you do realize that whatever the concepts are that you're using, the limitation in terms of solving issues might be lying in the way you approach the concept. So, and as long as you do that and you get to solve your issues and you don't see new ones arise, then the concept is sufficient. But the concept itself is only a mind construct that refers to a reality that you can only know indirectly. You have to discover again and again that your concepts are still sufficient. And that's what it means to keep an open mind, that you do not hold on to concepts, but you investigate or you discover whether or not your concepts are sufficient to explain what needs explanations. And this whole approach itself cannot be called a concept. It's more it's something that you can live, something you discover, and then all of a sudden you realize its consequences. But it's not something you can name and say that's what it is. It's a realization that itself becomes part of the way you function, the way you approach things.
And if you then, so I look at myself and I think, okay, if I was to give this process a description,
Mm-hmm.
so I see before that there was what would I see in myself to recognize that process is existing?
The fact that you not arrive at a conclusion about it, but you see yourself making an effort to see. And you do not conclude whether it's possible or not, you just see that the search itself is something that's open-ended. It's something that will always be potentially discovering something that wasn't seen before, and that looking, that curiosity or whatever you call it, that ongoing search without an end in mind is necessary for those discoveries. That without that, it's very unlikely that you'll stumble on something that wasn't discovered before. Something unique, something genuine.
Mm.
It's like those people that wonder, I don't know, that say, how do I know whether I'm reliable or not? It's not whether you can say you are reliable or you're not. The only thing is that if somebody is capable of asking that question, then it's clear that their intention is to be reliable, and that makes them as reliable as anybody can be. So reliability would be then the showing consciousness of the possibility of being unreliable and not choosing that.
As you speak, I notice that there's two things. As I hear, there's things that I could say similarly in terms of experiences, and then I realize that there's a process that goes on in myself, a sort of an active awareness that sort of is reflecting on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I always find that putting that into words is not something that it can always sound far. It's an experience more than necessarily a description. But if you look at that, how would you describe at least the process I associated myself. How would you describe it in yourself?
It's no, I would say the same thing, but the words that we're using now is pointing out the circumstances where people deny that such a process is going on. So words can be used to point at denial. They cannot be used in this sense. They cannot be used to pinpoint what it is, but they can be used to how do you say that? Arc or
Negate.
Yeah. So to show what the negation would be. So you talk around it, and the more you talk around it, the clearer it is what it's not, and then everything that's left is possibly what it is. But that's the discovery. Assuming it makes it possible to negate it. But the words are only to show what it's not. So when it's contradictory, then it's not the same thing. When it states something that says more than it then can be. I don't want to make this too complex again, but if you state something that contains more than you can actually take responsibility for, then that's also not it. Then they call it in Holland. They have the saying that the wens is the vader van de gedachte, so the wish is the father of the thought, or something. If you claim something you can't take responsibility for, then there's a wish behind it that you're not conscious of, and all those things are not what we're talking about. It's the realization that this is how it works. That's what we're talking about, but you can't put it into words. You can just point at it and say, it's in that direction. That's what it looks like, and once you're there, this is what you at least is what will be clear to you.
When we talk now, and it feels like someone almost would say it's still abstract for them,
mm-hmm.
and then I also think, hey, in the first 2 days, you know the people get it.
Yeah.
And it feels like a contradiction. How could something so abstract be realized?
Oh, it's quite simple. If anybody who would listen to this interaction have any emotional connotations with it, like approval or disapproval or even anger or frustration or sense of insecurity, or that they use it to look at themselves and think, hey, I'm not that special, or the other way around, they say, well, these people are completely confused, I'm better than them, yeah, I know more, or I understand better, or whatever it is, that is the reaction to what you're hearing here, is itself the entry into the world of becoming conscious of it. So whatever it is you discover, where it becomes important for you is where you're blind to the process that we were referring to. So it doesn't really matter how far you are, or it doesn't really matter how many distinctions you already have made. It's the fact that you realize that distinctions are possible, you don't have them, and then how you deal with that. If it makes you curious, or if it makes you reluctant. And even the reluctance itself, if that were to happen, that's not the issue. It's the awareness of that's how the entirety of what you are is reacting to such an event. It's the consciousness. It's the onlooking at that process. That's the whole thing. And the more you become aware of all the intricacies of that reaction, the more aware you are of what it is, and especially of what it isn't. And in the training that we do, it's always the interactions that get facilitated that help people dive into that personal aspect of themselves in the shortest period of time. It's relentless. The searchlight is on, and people can't deny what is visible to everybody. And since they're in the training, they've already decided that they don't want to deny. They want to uncover. They want to realize.